725.
Okay.
All right, you should be good.
725.
That's cool.
A little hesitation in there, but yeah, roughly.
All right, we're good.
There we go. We got a fat head.
What's that?
Are we live?
We're live.
So Sean, I got to meet you based on a topic that has been a big part of why I'm running for office, and something that I did that day, and I still do. The more I learn about you, the more I would say this 100 times, that any candidate running for governor that doesn't endorse a person like you is a fool. So tell us a bit about like what got you involved in politics, and not only that, but like tell us a bit about yourself. Tell us a bit of why this is something so important to you, and politics is so toxic. Honestly, it's a disgusting game to get into, but it's worth it, isn't it?
Hopefully it will be. Yeah. So I got into it because I grew up in foster care and kind of was a difficult part of my life. DHHS kind of insisted on a lot of things, forced reunification being one of them. And that wasn't in the cards. Not just for me, but tons of other kids around the state. So I ended up, going to court and fighting my own cases. Ones that they normally would appoint a child guardian ad litem. And then from there, I 2 years into the process, got talking to Mary Mayhew. She was in charge of DHHS at the time, and then we got in touch with Paula Page, governor at the time, and from there we did many things, but forced reunification being the main topic, and trying to establish a law that prevents that from affecting kids, essentially. And beyond that, right, I worked in what they had called YLAT, which is a youth leadership advisor in training kind of program. And through that, I got to go to the Capitol, and I got to do a ton of big things, help write and form the Foster Youth Bill of Rights. Got to do TED Talk, a lot of cool things. Yeah. But the real thing that matters is that change happened, right? And that started with a difficult conversation. Obviously, under the administration that is today, everything's pretty much reversed, and there's no oversight. Not that there was oversight back then either. The real key thing is, though, is that the conversations were happening, right? If there was another term possible for Governor Paula Page, there would have been some sort of formation of oversight. I have to believe that. But it's not the case, and we're here today, and we're seeing now kids dying, right? I've talked and worked heavily with Bill Diamond, and through that association, we uncovered that obviously, had 155 deaths since 2019, and obviously, the years are going on, right. So probably more. And what are we doing about it? These kids are getting swept under the rug, essentially, with no real support.
So, taking on the opportunity to run for office, like you think of your district and stuff, and you look at the level of responsibility there is in the House and the Senate, all the bills, 2,000 bills plus, I guess, going through. And when you sit there and think of the governor or anyone in that office, if they're not willing to delegate authority or listen to people, that's where we really have shortfalls. And that's where I feel like we have right now. I'm not saying anything negative about Janet Mills as a person. I'm just saying don't take on too much, because there's a lot to be run in a state.
Absolutely.
And if you think you can do it and you have an answer for everything all by yourself, you're a fool.
Yep.
And that's one of the things I really like about you. I don't even know your age, but one thing I can tell you is you're a studious man. You represent yourself well, and it sounds like you got kind of a rough start in life. You kind of got bounced and bounced and bounced and bounced, and then even they tried to force reunification in your life, and it wasn't even something you desired. You weren't like begging to go back home. You were actually begging to stay the hell away.
Yeah.
And when you have a government that's not listening to the person who's in, from what it sounds like, and I don't know the whole story, Sean, but just from what you've told me, the person who's actually kind of a victim here, you really need to start listening. I feel like our government is so big, it's so powerful, but yet it's failing so much,
Mm.
and it's not from the lack of money, it's not from the lack of effort. I just sometimes think we keep adding on to something we think is a good program when it's already bad, and so the more we bury it with the small good things, we're just making it bigger, which creates more problems. And so, what would be if you could introduce a bill, like
Mm.
some kind of legislation that you think would actually help you in the district, 54, right, or
64.
64,
Yep.
and that could help you in your district. And then, my goal is to be governor. What's the bill that would come across my desk that would be the thing that would be like, holy crap, this guy's exactly who I thought he was.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a few, but two big things that I can point out. Education is one of the biggest things that I feel like we have to reform and fix.
Yeah,
Um, and so I would propose that we have performance based teaching and eliminate standardized testing. And we
yeah,
work towards a education plan that is education first. And we stick with the advancement in technology with AI, and we critique each individual child in the classroom. We all may have a standard for that kid or for the whole class where, say, for instance, today we're learning 5 plus 3. Great. Everybody's going to learn it. The difference is how are we engaging you to learn that, right? So we may give you a sheet that has a fire truck on it because you may want to be a firefighter. Great. But now you're going to engage with that a little bit more just because it's unique to you. Um, Absolutely, and that's the key. And that's just one small thing, right? But that leap of faith and changing our education system is going to be huge, and we're going to set up so many more fundamental things off from that. Such a minor thing to change, and yet again, the impacts of that will be substantial. Ideally, we would have, because no standardized testing, no ABCDE things, right? And we're having fill in the blank questions. There has to be testing. We all have to understand that. That's
right,
totally fine. Except I want you to critically think about how and where your education came from. When you have to take a test, are you researching things? Are you picking a book up? Are you retaining what was taught in the classroom? Instead of simply notating and saying remember this, we have to have these kids actually implement a strategic plan that will have them retain this information, because when they do get older, right, that's what we're setting every kid up, like we can all agree upon that, right?
right.
So if that's the case, right, what are we setting them up for? Because right now it's failure. So I don't, and look, I go out all the time and talk about entrepreneurship and community outreach and getting out there and just doing that classic handshake and look in your eye. The one thing that I have been talking about and setting apart is I don't want these kids to have jobs. I want them to have careers.
Yeah,
And there's a big difference between a job and a career. And I can tell you that every kid right now, they're going to get jobs,
right.
but that may be it. And how are they going to set only the kids right now who are taking it upon themselves to set themselves apart? They are going to be successful because they understand the only way to get to where they want to is by their own volition and to set themselves apart and to be unique and to go the extra mile to do the work on their own. And that is so unique and so great and groundbreaking. But the thought process behind that, as somebody who does that every day, it's not unique.
One thing that from the day I've met you is I can tell that you're a driven person,
Yeah.
right? And knowing the breaks that you've never got in life, you created your own. And I think part of your heart behind this, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but part of your heart behind this is you saw how hard you had to work, and you kind of want to give kids the opportunity to have a program that can allow them, if they work hard enough, to succeed. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
and you're a small business owner,
Hmm.
and not only do you have your own business, but you help other people. You've honestly, since I've met you, all I've seen is you work,
Yeah.
and but you're working with passion, and it's your career. Like you just said, it's not a job.
Right.
It's something you enjoy doing with your whole heart. Every conversation I have with you, Sean, and that's why from the first day that we met in person, we'd spoke before that, but when we met in person down there in Augusta at the DHHS rally, one of the things I said 100% on all sides of Kennebec, I spoke to them at the end of the rally, and I held up your postcard that you had there, And I said, I just based on the way you spoke there that day, the principle that you had behind you, the passion that you have, um, it doesn't matter what political affiliation you have.
Right.
It's really like, I think that's the problem with what's going on in our state
I
is
know.
they're going to be like, oh, Sean's an independent Democrat, Republican, whatever. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
They see that and they won't vote. They just won't even listen.
I know.
And we just need people to listen. We need people to come to the table, and regardless of your political affiliation, I endorse you 100%. I would campaign for you if I had more time.
Yeah,
I
I
just think you're
appreciate
the
that.
kind of person we need leading this state. The youth of our state coming forth with like, you have brilliant ideas. I honestly have learned from you in the short time I've known you, and I think that I'll continue to learn from you because you're driven, and you truly have a heart. And we may even differ along the way,
Yeah.
but when we differ, the amazing thing is when someone doesn't have heart in what they're saying and they're just kind of pissed off and kind of like, well, this is what I believe. It's hard to listen to somebody like that.
Yeah.
But I think even if we differed along the way, I would sit and listen to you because I know your heart, I know your drive, I know your passion. And I hope the people of Waterville, I hope the people of your district see that. And I hope beyond that, I hope it kind of spreads and is contagious because the demeanor you carry as a individual, as a citizen of this great state, if people all carry that same demeanor and truly want to make an impact, I really just say, like people should be looking up to Sean Packard. It's really one of them things. And I don't speak that highly of many people. I typically don't even like myself most of the time. But no, you're a stand-up individual, and I'm sorry for being late tonight.
No, it's fine.
I was
I
on a
get it.
Zoom call where there were it was with the prison, Main State Prison, and so some of the inmates wanted to ask questions, and they said, well, we can't have them all because he's limited on time. And I felt like that was really restricting, even though I know I can't get their votes.
Mhm.
I felt like I was restricting their voice, and I didn't want to cut you off, but I knew that worst case scenario, we could always go another day.
Yeah, absolutely.
But these guys can't. They had to
Mhm.
get 6 weeks pre-approval from the prison.
Wow.
So I really wanted to give them an opportunity to speak. And they said, I'll be quick, and I kept saying, um, Sean and Ryan might not be so happy, but I guarantee they'll forgive me for giving you a voice.
Yeah.
And so we were able to give them a voice. And I'm so grateful that you were still able to do this with me. But so when you're looking for the next governor, I'm not asking for any kind of endorsement. I would never tell you to do that. There's 22 of us out there, anything like that. I'm just asking you this one thing. What is something that you truly wish, Republican or Democrat,
Mhm.
independent, libertarian, Green Party, whatever, doesn't matter. What is the one thing that you think that person's going to need when on November, well, it'd be after November 4th, but
Mhm.
after the elections, when they step in the Blaine House, what is the one thing they're going to have to need to be a successful governor? Not win the election. What do you see that person having for a quality that's going to help them be a successful governor?
Yeah.
Well, not to tie in and
No,
take
go ahead.
your spotlight, but I just want, may I answer
Oh
that?
yeah, 100%.
Okay, because, and I'm not just saying governor, but also as a representative, because now I'm going to endorse you too, both of you,
Yeah.
because what I just saw, honestly, is what did you just get done talking about being late for? That you took ownership of a situation, explained what happened, your reasoning, and you move forward. What were you just talking about? You're talking about something you were very passionate about. When I see you talking, like you were just saying, I can see that passion. And you're talking about what? Helping children, individualizing, helping them. Like a job and a career are two different things. You know what I want my two sons to have? Careers. I want to look out, and I see that passion in you. I see you taking that ownership. I see the both of you showing up. I see both of you willing to ask people questions. I mean, and to take ownership when things don't go right. I mean, you're already doing it.
Yeah.
Both of you are already doing it. And so I truthfully believe that your passion and willingness to unify with people, I think is really strong for the both of you.
Yeah.
And I think that I see that in both of you, and that'll carry you well in your gubernatorial race, and I think that'll carry you well in anything you're doing as far
That's
as
one of the things that inspires me the most about him is it's never been about it's been about the issue.
Yeah,
He just cares about
it's
the
passion.
issue.
Yeah.
And but yeah, so
Yeah, I guess to echo, I would say the one piece that it's not that I haven't seen it yet from any of the gubernatorial candidates. It's just I hope to see it more. But I would say listen. I think listening is very powerful. And there's a really you have you have one mouth, but you have two ears. So I would say that you're made that way for a reason, and to start using your ears more than your mouth. And you, none of you are the governor. So don't don't go around being the governor. Listen to what the people want in a governor, because that's who you need to be. You do, unfortunately and or fortunately, represent the entire state. And for better or worse, there are divides in that. Totally. It doesn't matter if you're Republican, Democratic, or independent. There's going to be somebody that's not going to like things, and they may not align with you. So how, as somebody who, um, has to be that judge in that case, right? How can they listen to two complete opposite sides, but then make a choice? And that comes from understanding of the individuals and what's best for them, and the only way to understand that is by listening to everyone, and yeah, that's the key. At the end of the day, yeah, I may represent Waterville, but that's a fraction of it. I'm a state representative as well, and the things that I'll put forth, like the education bill, that affects the whole state.
It'll benefit the whole state.
Yeah, yeah, and other things. I plan to establish, real mission statements for places that lack them. Thinking like the homeless shelter in town, right? Places where people get help, and yet they're a bit lost when they get there, and there's no actual support system in place. And when I say that, I mean there are tons of supports for everything. Thing is that as somebody who isn't in, down on my luck, right? It's our job and our responsibility as humans, as brothers and sisters of other people around us, that we have to step up. We have to take care of these people and just show love and compassion. Like at the end of the day, like it's not hard to just be nice.
Not to put you on the spot. Did you know how much money went to homelessness last year in 2024? Well, not last year, 2024.
I will be honest, and I don't. And I'll tell you,
$101 million.
101. Wow.
And when you break that down to the homeless people actually asked for resources and benefits, I think it figures out to it's a little over 5,000. I don't know the exact number, but I think it's like 5,200
Okay.
people that went to. And you break it down, and again, my math might be a little off
Sure.
because this is just off a whim, but you brought up the topic. I just wanted to talk about it.
Yeah.
It figures out to be about $22,000 per person spent on homelessness.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about that math and think of $22,000, there are people who are on SSDI who don't even get $22,000 a year,
Right.
and they're living in a sustainable way. Not the best. Don't get me wrong. I understand it's a rough way, but at least they're sustaining themselves. I definitely look forward to going over a plan that I have for homelessness in the state of Maine with you at some point. I'm glad it's part of your. I think this is why I like you so much. It seems like we're kind of in tune with what's going on with the people and taking care of those who are struggling to do it themselves.
Yeah, Ryan and I actually talked about this before this, and it's like, wow, the real key factor is that we're theoretically, everybody who gets into politics, their goals should be less inclined with all the, nonsense, biased, and agenda-based programs or bought in expectations of the world, and they should come in with solutions. Everybody in politics, no matter where they are in the world, they have to be solution-based, and the real powerful portion of that is the fact that it's truly what the people want, despite not realizing it. Right? People are quite blind, and they live their everyday life, and some go on not attuned to anything in politics, while others are waiting for the other guy to beat down this guy.
Right.
And at the end of the day, though, what can both agree on? That there's a problem and we need a solution, and they may not know how to get there. Right? Okay, but the only way it starts and the only way that we actually get there is if you and I have a conversation. People, like anybody in a room, really, at the end of the day, I've sat in really big board meetings with the smartest people in the room, and I tell you what, they're not really smart. They're just rich, and they may be able to buy a solution from some people, but the solution comes from a whole bunch of people and not just one person.
Right.
I totally get it. There has to be one person in that position to make that final call, right, Governor? But at the end of the day, like, It's that listening piece.
Right.
That's the key. You have to be able to come in with a solution and solve the real problems of the world, not just say like we were talking about like boys and girls sports essentially, and great, that's I get it's a problem for the state. At the same time though, we have deaths in like in childcare. We have we have hospitals shutting down, and hospitals shutting their psychiatric units down. We have homeless people, 40 at a time. At least in my district alone, on the streets every day. Like what are we? I get
It's
boys and girls sports is an issue,
you
but
know,
but nobody's dying.
do you know what it comes down to though? It's a money issue. So what happens is on the right and the left, and this is why I've
Yeah, I
kind of
know.
walked away from it to some degree, is if you can take those polarizing issues, you can
Yeah.
raise money for your campaign, and that's why you have like Jackson and Charles. They're gonna do this debate in Lewiston because they're both like kind of having a pissing match on social media, but it's getting them money. It's raising them money. You do know this debate's probably going to raise both their campaigns a ton of money. They may not even win their damn primary, but they're going to draw a lot of money off from everybody who's going to be part of it and listen to it.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that I don't agree with what they're doing. I think it's actually in some ways good, but they're using polarizing issues, immigration, boys and girls sports, like you said, these polarizing issues to fund and to draw the line in the sand, as opposed to say, well, the reason why I have a problem with immigration is because tons of our tax dollars are going to this when we can't even balance our own budget, and because we have other things that are having shortfalls. There's so much fraud. We get all this stuff going on, and instead of explaining and really breaking down, it's like, well, there's fraud from this community, or there's this, and
Yeah,
because people do feel that way,
and,
they
and
get pissed
people
off.
just shut down and people shut down the whole organization. Like, look, 9/11 happens, boom, now we hate everybody from the Middle East.
Right,
like
right.
like what? In what world do we live in where we can't even sit next to a guy who has like a head wrap and a bag next to him because we assimilate it with a bomb? Like,
Right.
that is not a culture that is welcoming.
I
I,
have a pretty good friend from Iraq, and he actually helped our military and became a U.S. citizen and stuff.
yeah.
But the amount of chaos he gets, but he still thinks it's better. Like he'd rather be called the names he gets called, and be an American than to be in Iraq. And
Mhm.
but it's just amazing because he can speak some English like enough that with Google Translate, him and I can have really good conversations and go in depth. But he can speak pretty good English,
Yeah.
and but it's so sad to sit there and to hear the names that people call him, his wife, his kids,
I know.
and
Yeah.
he put his life on the line for American soldiers, but because he looks a certain way, still has a certain his
Yeah,
faith.
and as somebody who has respect and or an ideology and belief that America is better than his own country, that comes from we've been in power forever, and we seem to carry that gravitas over other people and other countries, and it's devastating to me that somebody who has an appreciation for America, that America is failing him. The one place that he feels loved and maybe, and hey, I get to live this American dream. We don't even get to live the American dream. And yet we're the ones who are the ones who are calling him those names,
Yeah.
and the ones who set up that president that he's a bad person. And that's awful.
There's one more person I want to tell you about. She's
Yeah.
from Lewiston. Her name's Eve, and Eve is, I used to have a certain viewpoint of, immigrants, asylum seekers, right? I had a viewpoint that I kind of carried for a long time. And I met Eve Ali. I was working on the Working Policy Council for Head Start program and serving. And I ended up serving as the vice chair. And Eve is somebody I met through the program. She was an immigrant, asylum seeker. She became a U.S. citizen. And that woman has done more than the average citizen does in the state of Maine with her life. And she's only been here about, I think, probably 7 years now.
Wow.
But the amount of things that she's done, started a business, got a real estate license, serving on policy council in her community to help things be better, giving people rides for jobs and stuff in her spare time. She's got 3 kids, and 2 kids, excuse me. And just all the stuff that she does she just sees it as part of the American dream, and you
I
help
know.
people.
Yeah.
And she's from a community that's getting like bashed, just for wanting a better thing. Here's the thing: 25 million people would not have come to the United States, giving up their entire life,
Yeah.
if they did not believe there was an opportunity.
Right.
And so there was one administration that says, "Hey, our borders are open." So people are like, "Okay, good, I got an opportunity," and they take it. 25 million roughly. And then we get a new administration, which I'm not saying that I don't agree with, having border security, especially when people can come and get our benefits, because it's a financial burden to the United States or our state. Um, but we can't expect these people, that came here for promise. They came here because they were like, well, I know their immigration laws are this, but this guy, he's the president, and he says that border's open, so I'm going to go. And I would go.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be here. I would have come because it really is the greatest country in the world. It's such an opportunity. Yeah, there's some things that I think completely suck about the way our government operates, but it's still better than anywhere else in the world. And so I know that you have to go at a certain time, and I just want to keep going. But I just think that we really need to calm the rhetoric and calm down and truly just humanize people. Go back to humanizing people. And yes, there are individuals that were Somalian that committed fraud. There are Caucasian
Hey, I was going to say
citizens that commit fraud.
there's American people probably right now, and like you think of Wall Street, you think of like, come on, like it's happening everywhere. It's happening in the politics too, like
Right.
like it's yeah. So there's fraud and yeah, like we don't seem to take the extreme measures when it comes to our own, which is nuts because it technically nobody from the U.S. is really from the U.S. So kind of crazy.
It's just a polarizing issue where people can raise money for it, though.
Yeah,
I'm for or I'm against. So I'm
Yeah.
right in the middle. I honestly believe that we need to be more humane about the way that this is being dealt with. However, laws are laws, and both Democrats and Republicans have had power at one time or another where they could have changed these immigration laws. You know what they do? Zero.
Yeah.
They don't change anything because it's great for raising money, and they're using people as pawns, which is sad because they're looking for opportunity.
These are lives. So you mentioned independent right in the middle. Yeah, I'm obviously running Republican. That being said, though, I have only in my youth and going forward, I'm only going to do bipartisan things as much as I'm allowed. Right? I'm at the end of the day, if I vote on something yes or no, that's a different bill presented to me, then it's a Republican voting yay or nay on that bill. But if I present things, I will work with both sides, and I'm going to present things. Obviously, that's my whole thing. I'm not going to be like some politicians where they get into office and then don't do anything. Like, what is the point? We don't need placeholders. We need people who are actually going to present solutions.
Right.
So yeah, when I present bills, and I will, as long as I get in theoretically, then the solutions will be ones that we can all agree upon. I mean, that's the only way that works. Like, it doesn't matter if the Republicans get the majority or not. Like, at the end of the day, I would love to have 100 of the 155 votes, right? Like that,
Right.
great, like because that shows that it's worth putting out even better, like and then when it crosses, say, your desk or something, it's like man, 100 votes on 155, like great, you definitely got the majority of the people, right? That's the goal. The goal is to just work with everyone and find real solutions to real problems and better the state of Maine. I'm tired of looking at another state for, well, what works for them and what doesn't work and why. It's not about that. We live in Maine, right? And right now, I mean, like, the state or the country works on a state by state basis. So if that's the case, why are we looking at solutions from other states? That's them. It may or may not work here, and that's what happens, right? It fails or it doesn't, and like, we're not a trial and basis. We're not lab rats, right? We've been at this for 250 years. So let's show some of that clout of 250 years, and let's not be the Caesars of tomorrow, right? Because 50 more years, right? And then the end of the Roman Empire is right around the corner.
Right.
So, and the only way to do that is through unanimity,
get what
Yeah.
you're
anonymity.
No, like,
With the-
you know, working together, like
Oh,
unity.
unanimous. Yeah,
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 like unity.
yeah.
So like coming together, and really showing, you know, if you will, the power behind kindness and compassion and solutions for the people of the state of Maine.
Well, I know that I've taken up some of your time and we ran
I do.
over.
Yeah, definitely
And
have to go.
but one thing I want to do is I
Yeah.
want to look forward to another date of us doing something like this, talking more. I really am engaged, like just listening to some of your ideas, and I love that you truly have heart behind it. I think you're probably one of the most independent people that I've seen running for office. Not meaning that you're not registered to an
No, I get.
affiliation,
Yeah,
but I mean you truly just have ideas that got you in this. And I just want to say that I look forward to the next conversation. But I know you have to go. Thank you, Ryan, and thank you, Sean. You know, for this opportunity to sit with you, learn more, and be able to share some of the things that I'm really passionate about as well. And I hope if anyone's watching or whatever, you can always comment, send messages, private messages to Ryan, Sean, Sean Packard, and you have a Sean Packard for House District 64.
Yep.
Look that up on Facebook. Send Sean some questions if you're in the Waterville area. I have a lot of family in this area. I hope that my family's watching and actually gets behind Sean. I know that my family's well divided politically,
Mhm.
but I think once they hear you speak, they're gonna love everything about you because you're honestly you're the heart. You're part of the fabric of what Maine is, and I hope more people like you win.
Thank you.
So we'll talk again soon, though. I appreciate it, brother.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.